Okay. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind, dude. Okay. Jeez Louise. I love it when my hardware just doesn't work for no reason. Do you know what the reason was? Nothing. Nothing. No reason. Just didn't work, because that's why. It didn't work because that's why. That's all. Technology. I'm like to the point where I just have to like do like full tests every single time, which is annoying. It's just annoying. Anyway. Oh, Lord in heaven. Lord in heaven. I've been actually having a pretty good week, honestly. The sun is starting to shine. It's getting nicer. I can actually leave my apartment. I'm about to start my practicum for Tessel, which is going to be really nice. Things are actually moving and grooving. Going to get out to see the bees soon. So that's on the docket. My brother's going to visit. So there's all kinds of things that are happening. And the truth is, and Freestyle Skate, my condolences. My condolences to you, my friend. I was asking, how old was your bird? How old was your bird? And talking about my little guy Milo. And the truth is that I just haven't been paying attention too much to the news. 7 is very young. 7's very young. Long Defiance says Tesla rocks, lots of opportunity. It seems like. And it seems like it's going to be right up my alley. The reason why I've always avoided teaching is because some of the stuff we end up teaching our kids, like, I hated school. I thought school was, it was a terrible time. I hated high school, especially. Like, if I could have just deleted high school, I would have. I actually advocate for the complete deletion of high school. I think high school is a complete and total waste of our time, of everybody's time. Literally, the parents, the students, the teachers, the administration, the society. There isn't a single level except one that benefits, and it's the 3 pedophiles at the top. Everybody else is just a complete and total waste of everybody's time. If we insist on having high school, it should exist in the absolute loosest sense. Like, a high school teacher should be like a guardian who a person can go and see and like listen to and then fucking bounce. I would have bounced out of high school at like 14, no trouble. And like turn a high school teacher into somebody you can like go to and be like, okay, I have an idea, I have these plans, here's what I think. Like a guide instead of what it is, which is a waste of everybody's goddamn time. Freestyle Skate, a cockatiel, 7. That is very young for a cockatiel, my man. Well, my condolences to you, friend. And then you say, I had to take a break from the news, was really affecting my mental health. Well, and part of the thing about the news as it's going on right now is nothing's happening. Like, you know nothing is happening when the news is actually like, the FBI director drinks a lot. Did you guys know? Hey, everybody, come into the room and listen. Let's have a big conversation and have serious diatribes and a big long expose and a big conversation about how the FBI director, Kash Patel, bit of a drunk. Like, who cares? I can't imagine giving a shit about this at all. Like, yeah. Like, yeah, they are all pedophiles, rapists. Like, they use like coke and heroin, like and now everybody's like losing their. I'm literally watching clips of Kash Patel standing in front of journalists, and the journalists are like, "Can you verify or guarantee that at no point were you intoxicated on the job?" They're fucking intoxicated on the job all the time. They're intoxicated all the time, constantly. They don't give a fuck about your stupid decorum or your ridiculous rules. Like, your absolutely childish way of soft handing these like rapists and pedophiles is the reason we're in this mess, right? The media lost the trust of the public because the media was completely complicit in the corporate coup d'etat of America and the takeover of America and the return of America to slavery. And so the response to that was a complete rejection of the media and bouncing to conspiracy nuts and weirdos on the internet who are all like, we love Donald Trump. And so now you have Donald Trump. And now you're turning around and like tisk-tisking because one of the pedophilic rapists that got elected has a drink. Weak. But this is what happens when you have no news, and this is what happens when you can't actually do real investigative journalism into topics that actually matter. Like, if you continue actually investigating, like, the Nazi state of Israel, for example, the only take that you can get away with is, yeah, these guys are Nazis. Like, here's their Nazism, here's more Nazism. If you were to actually like break it down and actually tear it apart and actually do articles and actually do an expose, go into their schools, go into their churches, go into their mosques, right? Go into all their institutions, you'll be like, oh yeah, shit, Jesus, these guys are Nazis. Oh fuck. It's like the only conclusion that you can walk away from. And so you can't talk about that, right? You can't talk about the war in Lebanon. The genocide in Lebanon, like let's be honest, that's they're ethnically cleansing southern Lebanon, right? They're going in to Lebanon and they're doing to Lebanon what they've done in Gaza because their goal is to ethnically cleanse the region for the glory of the Zionist state. So you can't talk about any of that. Because you guys are obviously the bad guys. Like, you're obviously supporting the Nazis. It's very clear. So you can't talk about that. You can't really talk about the Iran war because the Iran war is humiliating for Donald Trump and the empire. It's humiliating for America. America is constantly being humiliated. I think right now is actually the most humiliating possible moment for America because this is the moment in which America looks as impotent as possible. Like, impotence would be the word that I would use. And the empire cannot tolerate impotence. It can't tolerate this kind of helplessness and inability to actually get anything done. That the empire clearly stepped in it so that Israel could do this Lebanon genocide that they're clearly embarked on under the cover of night. But now we've got this like dementia-addled, ridiculous man baby who like shits himself so badly that Joe Rogan stands behind him with his eyes watering, going, oh. And he keeps standing up and saying, we're making good deals with Iran. And then literally every single time he makes this statement that deals are going well with Iran releases a statement saying, no, they're not. And then releases a music video with Lego figures and AI that's getting like more and more personal as time goes forward. And like they're opening up the field to like other Republicans, and they're making it larger in scope and more specific. And so it's this like public humiliation that America is going through, and it's so bad that so they can't report on Iran. Right? They can't actually talk about like they can't actually do any like who are these people who are making these videos? Who are these people who are making these Lego videos? Why don't we get like a big like investigation into who those people are? And why aren't we talking about like the broader implications for the region? You know, why don't we have like a big expose on who the Saudi princes are? Like why aren't we talking about this at all? Oh, it's because you're all bankrolled by those guys. Oh, okay, right, got it, check. So we can't have a serious conversation about Iran, right? We're not having serious conversations about Ukraine, not that we ever did, because every single time they point a camera at Ukraine, they keep finding Nazis, and they just can't help themselves at this point. Like, what's the picture I have? I have it. I swear to God, this would have been so smooth. Yeah, the New York Times, right? While reporting, the killer robots are coming, the battlefield will never look the same. Ukraine is using unmanned ground vehicles armed with bombs, guns, or rockets to carry out attacks and keep soldiers out of harm's way. So putting robots on the field. Isn't that great? Isn't it great that we're going to have all of these robots? Isn't it great that we're going to do warfare with robots? But every single time they take a picture of any of these Ukrainian fighters, they just can't seem to manage to take a picture of these guys without them wearing Nazi symbols. The Nazi black sun, like an extremely well-known, extremely popular Nazi symbol. So you can't report on Ukraine either. So what's left? Right? You can't report on the ICE agents. You can't report on that. You're not going to report on the homeless. You're not going to report on the income inequality crisis. You're not going to report on any of that. So what's less? Kash Patel, I think, was drunk one time at work. Let's make a bunch of hay about how Kash Patel has a couple of martinis at work every so often. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's essentially my take of this entire week. Get the fuck out of here. If you want any indication whatsoever that your media is completely complicit at every single level, that you should turn off the TV, that you should stop watching this shit, that you should stop paying attention to CNN, MSNBC, Fox, any of the legacy media stuff, it's that they have to tell you about the Iran war, because that's an event that's so big it can't be ignored. But now they're trying so hard to move on. Look at how hard they're trying to move on. Look at how hard they're like, okay, the Iran war happened, but ceasefire. So, did you hear Kash Patel? Did you hear about how did you hear? Like, maybe we could dig a little deeper. Like, maybe we could dig a little deeper into this. No, we're gonna leave the digging deeper to like some independent guy who's just gonna like go to Iran with like a microphone and like put a microphone in front of Iranians' faces and be like, so hey, our president thinks that you guys will stand up and overthrow the evil Ayatollah if we kill him. Is that good? And he talked to a bunch of people who were like, we like the Ayatollah. Like, we think he's doing good things for Iran. We're not going to fight back against him. Interesting. Maybe that's something the President of the United States of America should know. Like, are we actually going to do any of that? No. We're just going to leave that to just schmoes with like an iPhone. Got it. So that's this entire week. And so it's not so much that I'm not paying attention. It's just that there's nothing to pay attention to. All of the situations that we've been reporting on this channel or discussing on this channel are exactly as they are. Nothing is new. Nothing has changed. All of the news that is happening is just like dumb shit that like fits on the pages of like a gossip column. Like what's that one? Kristi Noem's husband with the big boobs. Can I tell you? I do not give a fuck about this story even a little. Like even a tiny little bit. Like, so a guy decides to like dress up as a woman with like big rubber titties, and like, I don't care. Like, maybe it's funny because he's the type of guy who would deny it. And that's kind of what makes it funny, I guess, to people. People are like, this guy hates homosexuals and says that and is a misogynist, but he dresses up in this bimbo costume and is dresses as a woman. So it's the hypocrisy. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't know. I hope he does. I hope he does, and I hope he has like huge boners and has enormous, massive, awesome sex when he does it. I hope that he enjoys it. I hope everybody around him enjoys it. I hope that we can live in a world where that guy can do that and everything's totally fine. Isn't that like the liberal package? Isn't this just like a massive slam dunk win for the liberals? Haven't the liberals for the last 10, 20 years just been shoving down our throats this idea that like gender is fluid and we shouldn't pigeonhole people and you should be able to express your sexuality without fear of judgment and we should be able to do, isn't this just a massive, huge, enormous W for these guys who should just be saying, yeah, like, here's an example. Why are you pretending? Like, instead of like being like, ha ha, ha ha, ha, we got him, ha ha, ha. How about just being like, oh, okay, cool. So like, it's actually normal, right? Like, we can actually kind of normalize this. Like, we don't need to stop. We don't need people to be like constantly fighting so hard against this. Right? If the people you're appointing to like the head of the FBI, if their spouses are engaged in this, like at what point do we just say like, you know, maybe it's just not that unusual. Like maybe it's actually a little bit, dare I say, normal. And I'm just sort of like over it. Like I just, people are making huge hay out of it. It's exactly like this Kash Patel thing. It's like, yeah, I bet they do have a few drinks. Like, even if the president of the United States and his people and his crew in the Oval Office were competent, intelligent, well-meaning, thoughtful people, I would expect them to have some drinks. You know why? Because they're dealing with what they're dealing with. And so this whole like purity like, sure they can fuck kids. Did you hear they had a couple of drinks? Omnicidal tendencies, good to see you. Omnicidal tendencies, wow. Whoa, now desk bourbon is real and a much needed thing. Yeah, I'm like, do what you need to do. Oh, good to see you, John. Yes, this is actually a good story to bring up, and I forgot about this story until you brought it up, Hall. Thank you. John, have you heard about the student facing 15 years just for a harmless fucking joke on Netanyahu? What in the actual fascist is this shit? Yeah, that's the real news, right? And I'm sorry that I didn't bring that article forward. I remember that now. The moment you said it, I was like, oh yeah, there's the news. I bet you I have that article too. Like, a young lady in Florida, you know, the fascist state of Florida, makes a joke about Netanyahu on social media and is now facing prison. So much for your free speech. Like, where's the free speech warriors? Right? Oh, right. For them, free speech was about saying the N-word. That's right. It wasn't about, like, criticizing power, which is what the First Amendment is actually about. Right? Yeah, Freestyle Skate. Did you see Apple Maps remove cities and towns across southern Lebanon? Yeah. Like, the corporate power structure is completely complicit in this. It's completely complicit in the imperial agenda. Like, I've said this before about Google Maps and about Apple and all these guys, right? Like, if you go over to China, like, when does Taiwan stop being as prominently placed as all of the other countries around it? So when Laos disappears, so Laos, you know, the forgotten, unimportant place disappears, So it's only when like Laos and Singapore, right? Osaka, like when they get rid of the major cities, and then for some reason they get rid of like smaller countries. I bet you it's based on population, right? Then they get rid of it. So it's like Taiwan is exactly the same as as Cambodia, right? And then when Cambodia goes, so does Taiwan. And it's like, yeah, okay. So let's go over to Florida. Is that the same with Florida? When does Florida get this treatment? When is Florida even as prominent as the Bahamas? The Bahamas goes away. Florida still there. So it's so clear that they're banging on the drum of free Taiwan, right? Taiwan is an independent country. Although what's hilarious is that the opposition leader in Taiwan is basically talking to China and to the Communist Party of China to be like, yeah, we know that their plan is to turn us into Ukraine. Like, we know, we're aware of that. That the promises of the United States is to turn us into the next Ukraine. And the opposition here in Taiwan thinks that that's a dumb idea and we shouldn't do that. China's like, yeah, it's probably a dumb idea and that you shouldn't do that. Radio Halifax, good to see you. Anemone, am I being censored? I bet you are. The firebrand that you are. XD writes, I still have a dollar store globe from when I was a kid that still labels Palestine as Palestine. Yeah, because it is Palestine. Like the very fact that this, like the very fact that the UN declared this as Israel at any point is like, oh yeah, so we can do away with the idea that the UN is a serious organization, right? It's so interesting living in this moment where nobody has any credibility anymore. Over on Twitch, Lounge Marco 2, world is PSEIDO. Sido project. Like, it's real straightforward. You give a small handful of people hundreds of billions of dollars, they're going to view you as cattle. Like, this is how they're organizing the future. They're organizing the future along these lines, right? If you can make it a crime to be homeless and have nowhere else to sleep but outside, and if slavery is legal in America only as a punishment for a crime, and if private prisons are able to farm inmates out to private companies for cheap, that's the fucking ball game, folks. Why raise the minimum wage if people either work for what it is or become homeless and go to prison where they work for cheaper? Why build more housing? Why help the poor at all when most of the economy is now luxury spending? This is the future of America. It's absolutely the future of America. No one is going to pass any legislation to increase any minimum wage. Nobody is going to pass any legislation to improve the quality of life for the workers. Nobody is going to do that. And if anybody shows up to do that and they gain any prominence and begin to actually follow through on that in a meaningful way, they will be shot. Like this Zoran Mamdani guy. Right now, he's literally talking about raising taxes by a single percentage point and opening up a few grocery stores in places that don't have grocery stores because the private sector has already abandoned those sections of the city. And the capitalist class is already losing their brain about it. They're already up in arms about it because there's a person who's literally like, we should be able to distribute food to anywhere in the city. Like, it's sort of absurd that we're not doing that. Eleni, good to see you, says, finally my favorite dude is on. Well, isn't that kind? That's a nice thing to say. That's a nice thing to say. Makes me feel good about myself when people say that kind of nice. Pete, you guys should say nice things about me all the time. You should say real nice things about me. Makes me feel good. Joe Anthony, good to see you, my man. And of course, the best part of the future of America is that they're being made stupid on purpose. Like, the capitalists are well aware that it's best if we're stupid. It's best if we're dumb. It's best if we're illiterate. It's best if we don't know what's going on. Right? We are in danger of producing an educated proletariat. Roger Freeman, advisor to Reagan and Nixon, arguing for limits on access to education. The US is functionally illiterate by design. Literacy is a tool of freedom, something that is intolerable in the land of the free. About 54% of US adults, ages 16 through 74, roughly 130 million people, read below a 6th grade level. Like, and then they've got a good map of it. Percentage of state population below level 1 literacy. 28% of Texas. This is not good. This is not good. That's a big flashing red light. They wouldn't go ahead and do something like, I don't know, let's say dismantle the Department of Education, would they? In the middle of what is obviously a clear crisis. Freestyle Skate says, I'm quite jealous of your beard, I must admit. People stop me in the street about this beard, man. People stop me in the street. Direct Luminosity, I love what you're doing here. Thank you, sir. Or madam. Or whatever. Thank you, person. I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever seen you here before. If you have been here before, I don't recall. Glad to see you. If you have any comments, questions, queries, please. I give deference to new people. I try to show new people that there is an alternative. One of the things that I've been trying to work on for myself is like, I've got to learn how to be nicer to people. Like, it's tough because it's gotten so ridiculously obvious that this is like a Nazi state. Like, it's gotten so overwhelmingly cartoon villain, like Bond villain level. Literally Snidely Whiplash, like we'll tie up the woman on the train tracks and the train will kill her. Ha ha! I don't know why I want to do this. I just know that I do. Ha 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 ha! It's gotten like that. Like, these guys are clearly villains. They're so obviously Nazis. And so when people come in and try to defend them, it's that act by itself is to me a completely shocking act. Just the act of actually thinking that you should stand up and actually defend these people and defend the system that they are putting forward. Like, to me, that is by itself an act of extraordinary evil. Just extraordinary, extravagant, way over the top, like demonic evil. Just simply the act of saying capitalism is good, actually. At this point. Because it's gotten so grotesquely over the top. And I can understand a person maybe being like, but doesn't capitalism have this quality? Doesn't have capitalism? Isn't this just an aberration? And needing clarification But it's the people who come in and they're just like lecturing me about the virtues of capitalism as their obvious chosen religion. And I just am like, go fuck yourself. Like, Jesus Christ, flush, goodbye. Like, get the fuck out of life. Like, go away. Anemone. It's called food deserts. Yeah, they love them. Like, they don't care if you die. Like, that's fine. Drug luminosity. I feel like America is at that point already. You've seen the warehouses and junk. Like, more people are burning down warehouses as a form of rebellion, and it's just, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take for America to finally be like, huh, maybe the entire purpose of a governing system is to govern and is to actually care for the needs of the populace. This is America. Yeah, the closer to Canada, the more people can read. Yeah. I mean, that's the difference, isn't it? Joe Anthony writes, yes, when working class folks stick up for the system and its main beneficiary, it's so sad and ridiculous. Like, I can understand doing that under like Obama, even, right? I can understand people having like the 2008 financial collapse happens. You can like make excuses and you can dicker and you can go back and forth. Like, now with the Epstein revelations, with the invasion of Iran, with the Palestinian genocide, like, what are you doing, man? What are we doing here? It's getting like, it's disturbing. It is like, I think for some people it is like finding out your dad is a serial killer. You know, that there's this stage of denialism, this stage of just like overwhelming denialism that people need to go through, where I can't believe my dad is a serial killer. Like, no, my dad's not a serial killer. And then finally you get to a point where you're like, oh, okay, so he did kill a bunch of people. That's true. But certainly he must have had a good reason, right? There must have been a scenario or a situation that will crystallize to make this make sense, so that my dad is actually a hero and a good guy. He's not a serial killer. Like, he's not a psychopathic mass murdering serial killer. And it's just like, over and over and over again, you go around and around and around and around it. And now we really are at the point where it's like, bro, like, your dad's a serial killer. Like, he has a significant, very obvious, very clear mental health issue, which means he cannot be part of the public. Bare minimum, he should live in a facility with like guards and shit. Barest of bare minimum. That's what's happening. And that's essentially where we're at with the system of capital. And of course, that means that the only people who are actually going to defend that system are the serial killers, right? Like, the serial killer is going to give you all the reasons for why he's killing people and why it's acceptable that he's killing people. Like, Dexter is going to try to convince you that he's only killing the bad guys and that he's actually a good guy, right? Like, the like Hannibal Lecter is going to try to convince you that he's actually doing good things. If he can get you on his side to believe that it's actually okay that he's eating human brains, like, if they can get you there, they'll do it. Like, of course they'll do it. And if you're a gullible rube or somebody who's just directly benefiting from it, then you will. You'll just go along with it. And it's just gotten to the point now where I can't really be nice to these people anymore. I don't know how to be nice to somebody who's actually like raw serial killers. Right? Like, serial killers are good, actually. Mass murdering rapists, pedophile islands. Big thumbs up for pedophile islands. And, like, they're all indicted in it. They're all part of it. And now we're saying, and now we're creating a world in which we're giving these guys access to military robots. Like, military robots installed with AI to defend their private property. But what, you think Peter Thiel is not going to have like a small army of robots that he can just sort of unleash wherever he needs or desires? But you think Elon Musk is not going to have access to this stuff? You think he's not going to use it? Like, this is the future that we're creating. We're creating this future where literal pedophilic serial killing rapists are getting access to robot military hardware. No. Like, no. Like, at what point do we actually just say no? At what point do we just stop and that's what these warehouse fires are all about. That's what all of that is about. It's just what a society does when it says no, finally. Because you've alienated everybody from everything, and they see this big, gigantic pile of goods that they're completely alienated from, and so they're just like, well, fuck you then. And I feel like this next decade is essentially going to be that. Is essentially just going to be, well, fuck you then. We're going to have an entire society based on the single premise of, well, fuck you then. That's it. The Nazis will be Nazis. So, like, your Ben Shapiro's, your Jordan Petersons, your Donald Trumps, your Joe Rogans, right? The Nazis will be Nazis, and they'll defend Nazism because that's what they've been doing. So, well, fuck you then, right? Fuck you, I've got mine. And then the rest of us will just be lighting shit on fire. That's what the future is going to look like. Direct luminosity. I wonder if Canada can actually achieve communism. No, because liberalism is rampant there. Yeah, it's commodity fetishism. Yeah, no. Like, Canadians have been disciplined properly. We tend to hold on to how to say this really properly. The ruling class has figured out that you can rule through fear, right? That you can rule through love, like you can rule through like popularity. That's kind of who Justin Trudeau was. But the liberals also understand that you can just rule through fear. And that's essentially what Donald Trump is doing, right? Donald Trump rules through fear. And he doesn't care if it peters out and it doesn't work at the end, because he's going to die and it doesn't matter to him. It's irrelevant. But essentially, the position we're in right now here in Canada is 100% just based totally on fear. Complete fear optics. The big piece of Canadian news for the Americans listening is that some people left the Conservative Party and went over to the Liberal Party and gave the Liberals their majority. So the Liberals can pass whatever legislation they like now. With no debate, they can just push it through, right? Push it through the House. What this really shows you is, again, there's just no difference between Liberals and Conservatives. Like, they are the same party. That the reason why this floor crossing is good for both the Liberals and the Conservatives is because and incidentally, the power structure itself, is it allows the power structure to pass through the slavery legislation it fully intends on passing through under the Liberals, while the Conservatives complain about it, right? So you get your fake opposition, right? Your faux opposition to the passage of this slave legislation that the conservatives fundamentally agree with, so much so that they lent out some of their people. But you get to maintain the optics. You get to pretend like the game of politics that's going on in Canada is actually an adversarial one. You get to pretend as though Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney are adversaries when they're totally allies. They're completely in bed with one another. And so that's what the future of Canada has. Like, just wait. One of these days you're going to tune in here. It's going to be soon, right? If not this next week, then the week after, right? It'll be soon. And all of the news coming out of Canada will be like, big omnibus bill passed. Huge omnibus bill. And the conservatives will be pounding on the pulpit, being, this is undemocratic. Now 4 crossers went across, and this is an undebated bill that's being passed, and nobody's read it or knows what's in it, and it's going to have profound effects. And also, meanwhile, the conservatives literally have their own version of the exact same bill back in their own headquarters, because it's exactly the legislation that the conservatives would pass in the first place, because they're allies and they agree on everything that matters. And the conservatives will pick in the omnibus bill, like, they're giving $1 million to trans youth, and abortion services are getting 0.2% increases over 53 years, and oh my God. Meanwhile, it'll literally have lines in it that'll be like, slavery is now legal. We can steal children from indigenous people. Like, it's going to, it won't literally say that, but it'll be like, the temporary foreign worker program has been expanded to include different types of people from different types of places that we bomb. Like, they're going to expand the temporary foreign worker program, which is just devastating the Canadian labor market. They're 100% going to introduce as many slave systems as they possibly can into Canada. They have to do it in different ways here in Canada. In the United States, slavery is still legal, right? They just need to criminalize being alive, which is exactly what they're doing, right? They just make it a crime to be alive in America. And so they can just send a cop at you and be like, hey, you're alive in America. You're under arrest. Go to prison. And the judge will be like, well, you are alive in America, guilty of being alive in America. And then you go to a plantation somewhere. Right? But here in Canada, we are like, no, slavery's not a thing. Like, that's illegal. And so we create a temporary foreign worker program where we import. A temporary worker can come from abroad and come visit the glorious land of Canada to work on a temporary seasonal basis to alleviate the labor needs from the farmers, and now the restaurants and the service industry completely, right? Because they're just destroying the service industry. Walk into any service building anywhere. Walk into any service building anywhere, right? Your slaves are everywhere, and they are treated that way. Like, they are mistreated. If you are talking to a person in Canada who is working for any organization and they are not proficient with English, right? They are being mistreated. The reason why they accept being mistreated is because in their very recent past, we were dropping bombs on them. Or, sorry, we were selling the parts to a factory in Israel or the United States that made the bombs for them to drop on them. And so Canada's role in this ridiculous pedophile destruction of the world scenario is to just stand back and be like, if you're desperate and poor, we'll mistreat you over here. Right? And they're just going to expand the shit out of that. And it's going to destroy it's already destroyed an entire culture. Like, it's destroyed the service culture such that it existed here in Toronto. Like, You can see it in Tim Hortons. Like it's palpable in Tim Hortons. Ben Jorgensen, thoughts on the Alto project? I have no idea what that is. Time to do some investigating. Time to take a look. What is the Alto project? Alto, shaping Canada's future with a high-speed train. With speeds reaching. Shaping Canada's future, bringing our lives and cities closer together. I don't know, it's like Christianity, a good idea. A good idea in theory. I've never met a Christian, but it'd be nice if they actually built this thing. The high-speed train Canada needs, with speeds reaching 300 kilometers an hour or more on approximately 1,000 kilometers of dedicated and mainly electrified tracks. Alto will connect millions of people living along the Toronto-Quebec City corridor. So, yeah, in the USA, we don't get proposals for high-speed rail. So, high-speed rail, like, moving into like the actual future in a real economy, right? In an unfinancialized economy, in an unfinancialized world, in a real world where real people exist and real goods exist. High-speed rail is going to actually be like absolutely crucially necessary. It's already crucially necessary. Like not to even like be competitive, but just to like do the thing. Like you need to get goods places. They need to go there. Go fast. Gotta go fast, right? And you want to have like dense city centers with big cultural exchange. Like it's really impossible to look at what's going on in China and be like, this is communism, this is bad. Like, what are you talking about? So high-speed rail is going to be absolutely central, totally crucial infrastructure. Like, so crucial that I think people of the future will look back on America and Canada's late adoption of it and be like, what? Like, you guys are constantly banging on about how you need to get goods to the coasts and like constantly banging on about how you need to move goods to the coasts. Like, what are we doing here? And like, they're going to make a big deal about 1,000 kilometers. Like, China literally built like, what, 200,000 kilometers over 20 years? And we're here being like, we're going to connect our major cities. Yeah, it's like the very barest minimum, least possible thing that you should be doing. Like, and look at how they're struggling to do it. And then more importantly, and this is probably the most important part, it's going to take them like 30 years to build this thing. Like that's really important to understand about why capitalist societies fail and why they can't work properly. Like, China is literally like, we need to build high-speed rail everywhere in 20 years. Go, flip, they've done it. Right? We'll be lucky if we see this strip of 1,000 kilometers of high-speed rail built in the end of my life. Like, because what happens is that capitalists, the psychopath class, just wants to squeeze as much money as they possibly can out of the coffers of the public. And so we'll do everything they can to throw up impediments in order to raise prices, delay the project, increase the budget. They'll do everything they possibly can to get in the way of this project for money for themselves. That's literally every construction project that exists in Canada and the United States. Like, have you ever lived near a construction site? Like, have you ever seen a place that's been under construction? Or maybe you have like a transit line and you go past a place that's being constructed or something that's actually being built. Have you ever noticed that it's never, ever finished? Have you ever noticed that it's just under permanent construction forever? And that it takes so long that eventually a politician needs to like stand up and actually address it. And it's always the same thing. These things take time, there's unforeseen stuff. And they always like run cover for these guys. And in the back room, they're probably like, okay, we actually do need to see some motion on this. We're like 10 years over time and like $500 million over budget. People are starting to sniff around on this. They're starting to put together that the entire system is corrupt and that I'm in bed with you guys and that we're just siphoning money away from these guys. Right? They're starting to actually be like, wait a minute. I don't think that these guys are on the level. Like, and so while China builds another 200,000 kilometers of high-speed rail that goes 600 kilometers an hour, we'll be lucky if we finish this 1,000 kilometers in the same period of time, because capitalists are so flaccid and so incompetent and so incapable, because they're completely indifferent. They don't care. Capitalists don't give two shits if this high-speed rail happens. It doesn't matter to them at all. The only thing that matters is that they get your money, and this is how they're doing it. So theoretically, this high-speed rail is a good idea. We should do a lot more than 1,000 kilometers. We should do a lot more than 1,000 kilometers. We should do hundreds of thousands of kilometers of this stuff. It should be like a spider web that's just like throughout Canada. We should have already been doing that, right? But again, we're so incompetent and so incapable and so just beholden to this religious ideology of money worship that the idea of doing something good to actually build a nation is just, that by itself is a totally foreign concept. Like, the only thing these guys care about, just imagine like Kevin O'Leary being like, but who makes the money? And that's it. That's your entire culture. That's your entire society. So this project will likely not finish in my lifetime. If it does finish, it'll finish way over budget and take twice as long as they say it's going to take. And that's my expectation, because I have no expectations or faith in this ridiculous religious ideology called capitalism. Freestyle Skate says, a couple of train lines actually closed by me. I live by the New York City Metro. Jeez Louise. Like, the train systems that exist throughout the United States are a disaster. Like, I just can't believe that companies are like, this is fine. Like, they keep having derailments and they keep running. Like, remember not that long ago, there was that derailment near, I think it was East Palestine, like near Philadelphia, where they literally blew up all the chemicals and there was a mushroom cloud and it poisoned everything. Like, that shit's happening all the time in America. They just don't report it. Ben Jorgensen says the conservatives are campaigning hard against this. Yeah, of course. I mean, the conservatives, if it was up to conservatives, they would straight up just be like, yeah, we live in a palace and you live in dirt. And that's the natural, normal order of things. We are better than you. What's the problem? The reason why you live in squalor and shit is because you don't work as hard as I do. Right? Sure, I was born to rich parents, and sure, I have generational wealth, and sure, I have all of the advantages, but I just work harder than you. And sure, I'll even admit you're dealt a bad hand, but if you were a good person, you would get the blessings of the god of capitalism, and he would give you benefits. Clearly, like, that's conservatism. So we're a backwards people living during a backwards time, which is crazy because we have all this technology. We're this like technologically advanced, like, we should be this like super technologically advanced spacefaring, like Star Trekian people, but at least 30% of the society is essentially just a monkey. just literally a monkey picking shit out of his butt who thinks he's like a super god king because he has a golden toilet. That's truly what's going on in your society. Direct Luminosity says Canada should already have one. Yeah, Canada literally isn't even a country. It is a strip. Yeah, and what's crazy is that if you actually look at the Trans-Canada Railway, John A. Macdonald, the first Prime Minister of Canada, completely understood that the Trans-Canada rail was absolutely crucial to the nation-building project. Like, the guys that came here, like the colonizers, the people who committed the genocide against the First Nations people, like the people who were just like, yeah, these people are here, get the fuck out of here. We gotta take this place over, right? Like, they understood at the barest minimum that to govern a nation, you must build the nation. And that there are certain things that the nation requires in order to be a nation. Basic infrastructure is required. Like, can you imagine trying to convince people that the way to build a nation is to starve the people of the nation? The road to prosperity includes your poverty. That the way we'll be prosperous is if the majority of the public is poor. This is literally the conservative argument, which is why we live in just this absolute psychopath period. Like, that the emperor's clothes are off. There he is standing naked in front of us. We all know it. We're all pointing and laughing. But there's still like a 30% of the society is still like, what? No, the emperor is beautiful clothing. You just can't see it. That's straight up what's happening. Yeah, Ben Jorgis is like, a strip? It's like, yeah, if you take a look at Canada, right? Like, if you take a look at it, like, this is Canada. It looks big, but really most people live like right here. And if you actually look, you can see it on the map. Right? I'll do it from Montreal to Calgary. But it basically is just like a road, right? Like just one road, the Trans-Canada Highway. Like, nobody lives up here. Like, there's like a small group of people, and you'll find small, tiny little communities up in this area. Why? Shit gets cold. Shit gets cold. Shit gets cold. It gets so cold in Canada. Shit gets cold. Shit gets cold. You don't wanna be outside in winter time. You might die if you go outside. Why do we live here? 'Cause it's not America. That's it. Like, the primary core, absolutely central, deep in our hearts reason why we refuse to become the 51st state is because we can't have both the winter and the shitty American system. Like, at least in America, you've got this shitty American system, but you also have, like, reasonable weather most of the time. Like, sure, you have, like, a day or two that's, like, out of whack. Like, you go to, like, New York, and they're like, oh, brr, it's -2 today. Eat a bag of dicks. Oh, we have 2 weeks where there's snow, and you've got to wear a scarf with mittens. Oh, I've got to put on my earmuffs today. It's quite cold outside in New York City today. Shut up. No Canadian anywhere takes you seriously at all. If you're walking around anywhere in America complaining about the cold, just know that every single time an American complains about the cold, there's a Canadian that feels it. And it's just like, I too feel the grisly touch of old man winter. Like listening to an American complain about the cold is like listening to a little kid complain about their allowance. Yeah, that's what it's like. Like, you listen to a little kid complain about how little their allowance is when they did absolutely nothing to earn it. They just got given an allowance because we're like, we got to teach them what money is and the value of money for whatever reason, because money is a thing that we all worship and adore. We might as well like have it framed on like for real. What we should start doing is like we should have like crosses, and then right beside the cross, like we should make crosses out of dollars, and we should have the little Jesus on a cross of dollars, and we should really like create art that really sanctifies dollars and really shows people that money is supposed to be worshipped and that we're supposed to iconography. I'm definitely messing that word up. Like Donald Trump is like, I'm going to put my face on money because he knows that's what we worship. We love it. We love money. So we should put it on our walls and be like, money, we love it. And so we got to teach our kids that. And so we give them an allowance and then they complain that it's not enough. And it's like, that exact sense. That is how a Canadian feels when an American is complaining about the cold. Muffin, are you cold? Whoa. Drug Luminosity says all of Canada's cities at the bottom should have this. Yeah, it'd be easier for them. Yeah, it would be a lot easier. It'd be easier for Canada to put in high-speed rail across Canada than it would be for the Chinese for what they did. Like, what the Chinese have done is absolutely, like, it's a modern-day miracle. Like, it's incredible what they've done. And we're just sitting here with our dick in our hands, basically being like, we were great once. White people are important. They can't do that. They're not white. I know what real communism is. Here's my position on why the CCP is not actually communist. Like, just one big entire length of time, just a whole generation just holding on to their dick. Just an entire nation of people for 20 years just holding on to their dick, being like, this is the best we can do. We can't do any better. That's it. Literally from the moment I was born until now and into the future is just a bunch of apes holding their cock going, we can't do better than this. This is the best that we can do. And my response has steadily been, yes, this is the best that you can do. Absolutely. We kindly request that you remove yourself from the equation because there's a lot of people who actually feel like we could do better. And if you don't think so, you should not be involved in it. And soon you won't be. Because guess what? We live in a beautiful world that kills you. Isn't that great? This is something I like to spread hope into the world at the end of the day. I try to make people leave this place with a sense of hope and a sense that good things are coming. And guess what? Good things are coming. You know why? Because all of the people who you hate will die. All of them. Donald Trump, gonna die. George W. Bush, gonna die. Right? They're all gonna die. God's gonna do it for you. You're gonna be sitting there one day and the news will say, today, President Donald Trump died of an aneurysm because he shit himself too hard after eating too much McDonald's. And you're just gonna be like, huh, great, fantastic. The world got better. All of these shitbags die. And they're stupid, dumb, ridiculous. Like, goodbye, Kevin O'Leary. Goodbye Elon Musk. Goodbye. And all of their shitty, stupid nonsense dies with them. And they're going to try really hard to pass the baton down. And I don't think it's going to take. I don't think that there's going to be, like, huge sections of the populace who have experienced the genocide that they all tried to perpetuate against us and think that was a good thing that we should continue doing for sure. Like, This is a class war. Post World War II, there was a moment of socialism that swept through. It was so effective that they had to erect entire institutions to try to destroy it in America, and they did so successfully. And now, because the crimes of capital, the crimes against humanity have gotten so obvious, the spirit of socialism is back. And they can't stop it because now it's gotten so cartoonishly obvious that capitalism is obviously a failed system that doesn't work, and that the only people who still uphold it are upholding it like they would a religion. That we just gotta fucking get rid of these guys. And guess what? Life will do it for you. Ben Jorgensen writes, Northern Ontario is a pretty vast expanse that's also hard to traverse. Windsor, Quebec City is an easy one. Yeah. No. The line, look, the fact that we don't have high-speed rail between Toronto and Montreal, we are a baby people with baby brains. We just don't have it in us. We are not a smart people. And the fact that it's going to take as long as it's going to take and cost everything it's going to take, like, we are a baby brain people. We are not smart. Like, we have the ability to do it. We have the resources to do it. We're just child people. Yep. Could also do Vancouver, Calgary, Regina, Winnipeg, long ass straight line. Yep. No, it would be like, again, it would be fairly I don't want to say easy, because that to me denigrates the work that actual like engineers and construction workers would do, but it'd be very straightforward. It wouldn't be this big complicated thing. It would be made complicated on purpose by capitalists for money. Like, that's how they roll. You can take a look at what economists do. Like, what economists do is getting so ridiculous that even other economists are starting to come out and be like, you guys are just making this complicated on purpose. Like, so that you can run cover, basically. Like, economics is not actually that complicated. That to me was a big awakening moment. Was like, I kept seeing all of this like economic report and economic thing, and everything they were saying just seemed wrong. Because I didn't know I was a communist at the time. Like, I was one of those guys that kept offering ideas and people would shoot them down because they were like, that's communism. And it's like, then communism is the best idea ever. We should do it. Like, oh, all the good ideas are communism. Every idea that seems to help anybody and create goodness in the world seems to be communism. But communism is bad because they defeated the Nazis. Yeah, well, we like the Nazis. That's why we let the Nazis take everything over. That's why we fund and work with Nazis. Starting to see why you guys are opposed to communism. So I would do like a lot of study, and I would like read the Financial Times and try to like puzzle out like what they were doing, what they were saying, and like did a lot of research on like what's a trade deficit, like what are these things, and when you actually like finally sat down and had somebody just explain the terms and just explain what all of it is, you're like, oh, this is actually extremely straightforward. And they're just making it complicated on purpose in order to obfuscate their theft. Like, if you were a thief and you were stealing from someone, but you could just create new terminology in order to deflect and obfuscate your theft and have people be bamboozled by that, you would absolutely do that. That's exactly what they've done. Like, quantitative easing is just absolutely a cover for their theft. Yeah, bribe a bunch of politicians to give us hundreds of billions of dollars after collapsing the economy, and we'll call that quantitative easing. I would call that theft. I would call that bribery and not extortion. What's that X term where there's just... Anyway, there's a term, and I'm blanking on it. I'm sure my chat will. But like everybody, like you had all. I remember the big thing that inspired me to like read Adam Smith was just like a bunch of guys being like, "You just don't understand economics," and then you read Adam Smith, and you're like, Adam Smith hated landlords. Adam Smith literally hated landlords. He had nothing but bad things to say about landlords. And the capitalists defending their capitalist system use Adam Smith to defend capitalism. Adam Smith was not a fan of capitalism. Like, he observed its existence. He was a fellow, like, literally, Adam Smith was like my grandpa sitting down and basically being like, you know what? This business thing seems to be a thing that's really taken off. Nobody's actually written anything about it. So you know what? I'm going to write about it. Like, if my grandpa, instead of being interested in his family heritage, was like, here's how you run a business, folks. That's essentially what Adam Smith wrote. And then he just sort of expanded it, and it became like a larger work. But there are entire sections of The Wealth of Nations that are literally like, now a fellow will make a nail, and then he'll saunter on over to another station to drive that nail into a horseshoe. Well, the period of time in which it takes him to finish making the nail and walking on over to the horseshoe, well, that's just wasted time. It would be better if that man stood at the nail station and just kept making nails. And once he had an assortment of nails, another gentleman could come over and transport those nails over to another station where another man is nailing those nails into the horseshoe, and you would save the time of transportation and lollygaggling between the nail station and the horseshoe station. Like, straight up just like an old grandfather being like, here's how you save some time in the shop, folks. Content, good to see you. And so, like, I remember when I finally started reading Wealth of Nations, I like had this expectation that it was going to be very dense and complex and difficult to understand. A bit dry, maybe. But like anybody who's trying to tell you that you don't understand economics, like just read Adam Smith. They don't read Adam Smith. Their stupid invisible hand jargon. The only time Adam Smith used the word invisible hand, the phrase invisible hand, it was a pejorative. It was a negative. He said that if capitalism was unleashed on a nation, it would be like an invisible hand came by and destroyed the place. Like, he was opposed to free market capital. He predicted that if you allowed capitalists to do so, they would deindustrialize their own nations and transport the means of production to foreign nations for cheaper labor. He made that prediction that the Chinese benefited from. He made that prediction. And he hoped that people wouldn't do it based on something he called home bias. That was his grand prediction for why people wouldn't do the thing that they would do. And then they did it anyway. And instead of having a serious conversation about that, you've just got all these dullards basically being like, Adam Smith said money good. You don't think money good. You don't know economics. Economics tells us that money good. Just make money go up. You just jealous. You just jealous because you not smart like Trevor. Trevor's smart. You dumb. Because Trevor have money and you don't have money. Trevor's smart. I should have used the name Chad there. That would have been funnier. Chad is smart. You dumb. Read economics. Chad smart. Paul writes, they use jargons to intentionally mindfuck you and gatekeep. Finance is actually easy to understand. I promise you. It is. No, it's dirt easy to understand. Like, it's more difficult to understand Romeo and Juliet than it is to understand finance. Like, it's more difficult to understand, like, it's more difficult to understand Inception than it is to understand finance. Like, if you walked in and you watched Inception and you thought to yourself, all right, that's kind of mind-bending and twisty, but yeah, like, it was a dream within a dream, and they got out and everything's fine. You walked out of that movie being like, but here's the thing, is that there's a ton of people that walk out of Inception being like, what even happened in that movie? I couldn't even really follow it, even though there was a person explaining it the whole time. That's my absolute favorite. I'm not going to do like a whole movie thing this time. I'm not going down that rabbit hole this time, but like, you know, your society is fucked when a bunch of people walked out of the movie theater of Inception being like, oh, what? What a confusing... Like, they literally explained it to you, bro. As it was happening, they were just like, okay, we're gonna go into the dream now, and then we're gonna go into the dream within the dream, right? Like, you gotta dream bigger, son. Big grenade launcher, shoots, like, it was pretty straightforward. Like, what was confusing? What would have been really confusing, and I would have actually admired them for, is if they didn't explain anything to you. That I would have been like, now we're fucking talking, bro. Now we're making movies. Now we're making cinema, man. Just literally have like Leonardo DiCaprio, like, knock a guy out, like, install something in his neck or something, right? And then like pass out beside him. And then suddenly wake up in like a scenario and there's like stuff happening and he's just doing stuff. Right? And then have him go through like the levels and the layers. Explain nothing. Don't even explain who this guy is. Don't even explain who Leonardo DiCaprio is and who the other guy is. Right? And then just get down to the lowest level and then have the last level, have the guy be like, you know what? I do forgive my father. And then like, and then they both wake up. And then the guy like picks up a phone and he like calls the guy and says, you know, no, let's not. Yeah, let's not do it. We don't need to. Yeah, for dad. You're right. Click. Movie over. And then have people be like, what happened in the movie? Let them puzzle it out. Let them figure it out. Instead, you're going to be like, okay, so we're going to put you into a machine here so that you can go into the mind of Jameson J. Jameson so that he can have a memory implanted inside of himself so that he can forgive his father and move on from this other company thing. And we got dreams within dreams. That's another part of it, but we'll do dreams within dreams when it happens. It's fine. Everybody clear? Anybody questions? So of course these fucking guys think that they can just do this because we're stupid. Because we'll watch a goddamn movie where everything is explained. Literally, like, put you on the rails, explained. Did you see The Matrix? He was in The Matrix and he's not in The Matrix. Dream within dream. Like, did you see any science fiction at all? Have you been involved in the process of thought? Have you been involved in the process of listening? Can you see things with your eyes? It's just no small surprise to me that a bunch of people leave the theater after watching Inception being like if somebody pointed out, like if somebody actually told me that Inception was a psyop to see how dumb Americans actually are, I'd believe them. So we explained it to them. We told them what was happening as it was happening. We clarified it. We have a character in the film whose only existence and only reason to be there is to explain to the people who are professionals and experts in it what's happening so that they can say, correct, to this person who doesn't need to exist in the script for any other reason at all. She is not important that she is there. Or they are there. Anyway, that individual went through like a whole thing. It's fine. So we could do that, and people will walk out the end being like, what? I'm super befuddled by this film. What happened? What a mind bender. I can understand being like, what a mind bender for like a day. But then it's like, yeah, dream within dream. Like everything's fine. Like they incepted him. It's in the title, Inception, right? But I bet you like the psyop happened and all of these people walked out of the theater being like, whoa, and they like turned to their Wall Street buds and were like, you could call this, you could literally walk up to these guys and kick them in the balls. Just like literally walk up to them and like punch them right in the dick. Just punch them in the dick like it's a punching bag. You could pull their pants down in front of all their friends and family and just like absolutely like it's one of those carnival game punching bags to see how hard you can punch somebody a bag, and you just punch them right in the ball sack just exactly like that, and have a friend like ring a bell behind them so you could be like, yeah, we did it, and then you could just say, oh hey, you were involved in a merry-go-ride carnival experience. And they would go like, oh, wow, good for me, and walk on with the rest of their life. Pull their pants up and be like, wow, can you believe it? You just need to rename the theft. You could literally walk up to them and steal a sandwich out of their hands and be like, this has been redistributed through recompense, and then eat it. And they'd be like, well, it has been redistributed through recompense. That is true. Yeah, you stole it. You stole it right out of their hands. Like, just like straight up, it's not called pickpocketing. It's called reallocation of resources. You just need to rename things. And sometimes you don't even need to rename it that difficultly. You just need to make it like, yeah, quantitative easing. What? So, easy money. Right? Quantitative easing. Yeah, it's easy money for them. They're telling you that. And you're just like, well, I guess they're easing the quantitatives. Pump, 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 pump. Fiddleford says, utilizing big, crazy, hard to understand words is a very old way for the elite to keep us from knowing what they are saying. Speaking a different language within the same language. Yeah. But like, there is a classical Bible story that is actually a big warning about this very phenomenon, which is the Tower of Babel, right? In the story of the Tower of Babel, humanity became entranced with an idea of building a tower so high it reached heaven. And God was like, I don't think so. That seems like hubris, so I'm going to say no to that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change all your languages. So I'm going to make it so you can't talk to one another. Right? What happened? The thing fell apart. It fell apart completely. Now, if you're a Luddite, right? If you're like one of these biblical like realists, or like, I don't know what to call these guys. If you're a guy who thinks magic is real and you read everything as if it's like literally, this is literally what literally happened, even though there's magic in it, then you're like, wow, God changed everybody's languages and that's why we speak different languages. But if you're not a moron, you can go like, yeah, the ruling class will create alternative languages in order to maintain power, but that leads to ruin, right? That if you create a whole other language that nobody understands in order to obfuscate what it is you're doing to maintain power, eventually it just leads to ruin. because you lose the trust of everybody doing it, first of all. Because the reason why you need to do it is because you're a thief in the first place. Right? You're obfuscating because you're doing things badly in the first place. Right? Like, if they were doing the things they were doing, but being like, yeah, we're going to take your money and we're going to give it to the people who are responsible for collapsing the system in the first place, I think most Americans would be like, no, you're not. I love how people are like confused about where Donald Trump came from. They literally collapsed your economy, fired millions of people, huge amount of people are homeless, lost their jobs, and they looked at the people responsible for doing that, and the Democrats under Obama gave them, what, $400 billion? As a thank you for doing it? Yeah, I really wonder where Donald Trump came from. I'm confused as to where Donald Trump came from. Why did Donald Trump win this election? Why do people really hate the Democrats? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Just baby brains, man. Holy shit. Austin writes, what I enjoyed about Capital is how Marx basically runs down the classical economists to their logical conclusion using their own quotes. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That, like, once you understand that, especially Smith, I haven't ever taken a run at Ricardo, and I should, because he's definitely in there. It's the steps are Adam Smith, Ricardo. Is that right? See, this is how little I know about this guy, right? But the steps actually are, in terms of the economic side of the equation, Smith, this guy, Ricard, and then Marx. And Marx is a continuation of their work. And he considered it a continuation of their work. And when you read Smith, at least, you can see that it's a continuation, right? You can see that it's a continuation of their work. Because, like, and to be fair to people like Adam Smith, like, he's not a god, right? He's, like, literally the first guy taking a stab at this. And so he's just like, yeah, I think he did pretty well, all things considered. And then Marx is just like, okay, he had this statement which was correct, but his idea of the trajectory of it and where it might go is a little off, which makes sense. And then there's, like, the Hegelian philosophy line of it, right? The essentially taking the concept of cause and effect, but applying it to social dynamics. Radio Halifax, Adam Smith would have had a Scottish accent. My bad, Radio Halifax. A Scottish accent! They would have been, oh, the invisible hand of the free market! I apologize to Scotland. Not just the Scottish people or any Scots person who has been offended by that moment, but to Scotland as a nation and as an idea and as an identity. I apologize. I truly do. Freestyle Skate writes, people will argue economics but won't even study systems before capitalism, let alone those who critique capitalism even before Marx. Yeah, one of the most astounding things, and I actually was like truly floored by it, because of how stupid it is, was revealed by Richard Wolff. And I think that this revelation should really be the thing that sends alarm bells up for everybody, which is, like, Richard Wolff is a Marxist professor. He has degrees from, I believe it's Stanford, Cambridge, and Oxford. Like, he just, or not Stanford, Harvard. Like, he has degrees from all the places. He is likely the most educated economist on the planet today. He's, like, literally your elite pedigree prestige this is the guy people should be listening to when it comes to economics. If the litmus is what level of education did he achieve, right? Richard Wolff. And what he really revealed and has stuck with me is that in all of his Ivy League training, he was never once presented with the works of Marx. That's crazy. Like, that's actually like crazy bonkers, go nuts. That means you have an entire generation of economists. So let's say you actually do consider Marx to be like villainous, evil, wrong, incorrect, this fails, doesn't work, bad, 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 bad. Right? Let's say that's your position. Okay. Then you should study it to know your enemy. Right? Like, you should know what that is. There's entire societies that are basing their economic theories off of this work. You should know what that is. If your goal is to dismantle it and refute it, then you should know what it is. Not even presented with it. That means that you're illiterate. That means that there are Harvard economists in America today, people who graduated from Harvard, that are economically illiterate. And we shouldn't be taking them seriously at all. It's like absolutely crazy to me. Like, that's how you know you're in a religious cult. Because one of the major parts of most cults is that you can't criticize the leader. You can never criticize the cult. You can't actually say to the cult, hey, there's some bad stuff going on and we should probably fix it internally, right? So if when you are presented of a criticism of capital, and instead of saying, okay, let's read this in order to try and refute it and take this seriously, like, if you're not going to actually do that, then who gives a shit what you think? You're in a weird kooky cult. I've got big problems. Like, if I walk into your organization, this is why I don't fuck with the Trotskyists. If I walk into your organization and I cannot critique your guy, you're in a cult. And if you're not going to allow people in because they're going to critique your guy, you're in a cult. Like, pretty naked, pretty black and white. Like, if you can't successfully argue and defend your position, then you're in a religious cult. Joe writes, that always frustrated me about them using Adam Smith as a proselytizer of capitalism when he wasn't. I mean, they proselytize the Bible and they don't read that either. Right? They call themselves Christians and they're not. Like, so if Jesus Christ isn't sacred to these people, then Adam Smith certainly isn't. Like, they'll put on whatever skin they need to put on to convince you, right? Like, it's all about just being duplicitous. Like, these people are Zionist Nazis. Like, they don't give a fuck. They have no moral principles. Their goal is to win and to defeat you. That's it. That's their entire goal. And they'll put on whatever skin they need to do it. They would put on your mom's skin if they could to do it. Like, they are shape-shifting nightmare creatures. They will co-opt everything. They co-opted the Green Movement. They'll co-opt the Occupy movement. They co-opt the Tea Party movement. They'll co-opt everything. They'll co-opt rock and roll. They'll co-opt rap. They'll co-opt literally every cultural movement that happens. They will attempt to infuse themselves within it if it means you give them money and leave them alone. They don't give a fuck. They have no soul. They don't give a fuck about anything but money. Right? And the fact that they have no soul is self-evident. That's why they keep trying to replace everybody with robots. Because they're like, yeah, who cares about a soul? Right, that doesn't matter. And they'll straight up tell you. Like, there are billionaires that are straight up walking around being like, I don't know what this whole self-analysis thing is. why this idea of being introspective and thinking about your actions is such a new phenomenon. Like, these guys should not have power. Like, they should have zero power. Ben Jorgensen says, should psychedelics be legalized? Yes. Look, you're talking to somebody who, if you're like, I genuinely believe, very straightforwardly, if it's your body, you can do what you like to it. It's yours. And no one can tell you it isn't. Like, your body. You do whatever you like to it. Full stop. Full fucking stop. Your body, you do anything you like to it. You put anything you want into it. You do anything you like to it. And there's weird little creepy fascists who will pretend to be liberals and say, like, well, but we all pay for a healthcare system, and if we have to take care of those health, yep, that's the cost. That's just the cost of doing business, bud. Like, the cost of doing business, the cost of having the cheapest possible healthcare provided means that you also have to help people who do things to their bodies that you disagree with. Tough shit, shut your mouth, you creepy little fascist. Like, because that's how they get into, like, well, they tattooed themselves, so they don't get healthcare. Yeah, that makes logical sense. I'm a reasonable person. No, you're fucking not. You're just trying to find a way to control people because you're a creepy little fascist masquerading as a liberal. Right? That's it. So, all psychedelics should be legalized. If we actually cared about people who abused drugs, then we would raise wages and we would do something to improve the quality of life, the standard of living. Like, people turn to drugs to escape the hellscape we've created for them. Right? Like, one of my favorite experiments that got really exposed for its sort of childish Western bias. So back in like the 70s, they did this experiment where they took a rat and they put it in a cage with a water bottle and a water bottle laced with heroin. Right? So the rat is by itself in this cage, water bottle, heroin, water bottle. And so the rat used the heroin water bottle and then it just kept using it until it died. And the conclusion of these geniuses was, oh, drugs are addictive, and so if you give them a choice between not drugs or drugs, they'll do the drugs until they die. So drugs are addictive, and we need to get them away from drugs. Yeah, if you isolate a creature, give it nothing to do, and give it only drugs, it will choose the drugs. Correct, that's right. So, like, if you take a human being and put it in a room by itself with nothing to do except here's some drugs, right? If you throw a human being out on the street and give it no hope for anything, but here's some drugs, what do you think's going to happen? Like, this is a real 1 + 1 = 2 sort of thing. Like, if you're struggling here, so they ran the experiment. So later, much later, like literally 30, 40 years later, somebody looked at this experiment that's like the bedrock basis of like political decision making, by the way, and went, huh, so you isolated a rat by itself, gave it nothing to do except drugs, and then said from that experiment that drugs are bad because an isolated rat by itself with nothing to do will choose drugs over nothing. Okay. What if we recreated this scenario, but instead of having a sad, depressed, lonely, hopeless rat isolated in a cage, we actually had it like with friends and family, and it actually had like a community and actually lived in like a nice place and a good environment. And so they did. They built like a rat utopia, and they had like a playground and like a place for them to sleep, lots of food, there's the women rat, there's the men rat, they can fuck, like everything's great. Okay, cool. Water bottle, heroin water bottle. What happened? Every single rat tried the heroin water bottle. Novelty. Every single rat tripped balls and was just like, whoa. A couple of rats went back and tried again, right? And then the rats stopped using the heroin. And they just went about their rat lives. Because it turns out that the issue isn't the heroin, the issue is the isolation. Right? And that the original experiment had such a dim understanding of like basic humanity and like basic understanding of like life that they were just like, should be fine to just completely isolate a rat by itself with drugs and then draw conclusions from that, right? And so when they ran the experiment under positive conditions, where the rat's surrounded by friends and family and like has a good life, they get exactly the opposite. And so it absolutely decimates the original study. Because the original study drew the conclusion that this is a chemical addiction, you can't get away from it, and that's what they ran with. Just say no to drugs. That's the Nancy Reagan campaign, right? And that's the experiment that's the backbone of it. And now we're like, yeah, like, it's all fine and good to say just say no to drugs to a person who's like got friends and family and wealth and can fall back on a bunch of stuff, right? But if you're like broken down on the street and you know you're probably going to die anytime anyway, get high, right? Why not? It's real straightforward shit. If you actually gave a shit about these people, you would pass policies to increase their quality of life. Oh no, redlining? Okay. We could do that too, I guess. So I think that like the banning of allowing a person to do anything to their body is deeply, deeply problematic. Like, who are you? Why? Who are you to tell me what I can or cannot do to my own body? Shut up. Like, I don't know why a person actually feels like they have the right to an opinion on what I can do to my body. Like, go away. The very fact that a person actually feels like they are permitted to have an opinion about what I can and cannot do to my body, to me, is a huge red flag. Person comes up to me and starts telling me what I should or should not do to my own body, massive red flag. Huge Nazi scale level red flag. Hitler salute level red flag. Red flag. You will not tell me what to do to my own body. Period. Full scale stop. I don't care what argument you give. Like, I don't care. I don't care what argument you have. I don't care what argument you give. If you can't convince me that it's to my benefit to do the thing or to not do the thing, then get the hell out of here. Tough shit. Tough shit. Too bad. That to me was what was so revealing about the COVID period and the anti-vaxxers. Right? Like, the big takeaway for me that nobody seems to have also taken away, it just seems to be me, is that, oh shit, we failed to successfully articulate to huge sections of the populace why taking this vaccine is a positive. And the reason why we failed to do that is because the level of trust between those people and the institutions has been completely broken. Like, it was very convincing when the conservative anti-vax types that I would speak with, because I'm from Manitoba, would say, so I'm supposed to be mistrustful of corporations and the government until they're standing in front of me with an untested needle of unknown substance, saying, put this in your body or we'll put you in jail. I was like, that's a very good argument. Like, that's like an airtight argument. and really illustrates and really shows why fracturing the trust, like why discrediting yourself institutionally the way that we have in the West is so dangerous. Because when you get into situations where it's important, people will not cooperate. The real boy who cried wolf sort of situation. And for some reason, the people we're supposed to be demonizing in all of that isn't the government or the billionaires or the institutions. It's the people who don't trust them. Yeah, okay. Like, I disagree with anti-vaxxers. I think that we should have taken that vaccine. But I get their position completely. Like 100%. That, and there wasn't even that many of them. It wasn't enough to cause problems. Joe Anthony says, that's so funny when you use that Neanderthal voice to represent the average capitalist enabler. Yeah, Chad. Me Chad. Me smart, because me money. Man with the long last name. I got banned on Twitch. I'm sorry to hear that, my man. I'm sorry to hear that. Ben asks, what do people like so much about Carney? His poll numbers are insane. So you can rule with love, you can rule with fear. And Carney rules with fear. More specifically, Carney is an agent of fear. He isn't like there like a like an evil Machiavellian, like right? But the reason why the Liberals won the last election at all in the manner that they did is because of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump spread a lot of fear into Canada. This whole 51st state talk really spread a ton of fear. Into the society. And then you take a look at what his talks have basically been since then. Right? What have Carney's talks essentially been since then is that America is failing. The middle powers have to show up on the world stage. But essentially, the ideas of America are still good. But the ideas that white people should run the planet, that Israel is a place that should exist, Iran is the largest terrorist organization. Like all of the positions are exactly the same. It's just this constant reminding people that these are dangerous and uncertain times because America is failing. And so he's governing through fear. He's not governing through a message of hope. He's not trying to give people a message of hope. He's trying to instill people with a sense of fear, and he's doing so very successfully. Right? When people are afraid, they will acquiesce to strong governance. Just very straightforwardly. Like, so you can govern through popularity and love. That's what the Trudeau administration was doing and tried to do, but we saw how that was ending. Right? Because governing through fear will end too. Right? It all ends eventually. And the populace will go into a period of dissatisfaction, as it always does. And the Carney administration will have to respond to that. We'll see if they can do so rationally. I don't really have faith in that. The Liberals are not a very rational party, but and also I think that Carney represents the capitalists attempting to bring credibility back to capitalism. Right? Carney is a banker. He seems educated. He seems like he knows what he's talking about. He has this book that he made called Values, which is just kind of liberal slop, frankly. but it sounds competent. And that to me is what Carney brings to the table. And why people gravitate towards him is that he brings competence to the table. That when you look at Trudeau, you don't immediately think competence. And then you turn over and you look at Poilievre and like the Conservatives, and you don't immediately think competence. But when you look at Carney and his resume and the way he speaks and the things that he's willing to concede, that to me is his big his big draw. He's been willing to concede certain things, right? Like he basically looked at the left and said, the left's criticism of America and the West is correct. I'm going to try to salvage the Epstein class experiment, but I am going to throw America under the bus. And so I think that's made him popular, right? Because this is what governance is. Like, this is how liberals are supposed to lead. You give the smallest possible concession to the left, right? And if the left is willing to accept rhetorical concessions, give it to them, right? If all you need to do to stop the uprising is say, I'm sorry, then do it. And Carney is good at that. So, and Canadians are so like gulled and fearful and cowardly, really, that will accept the rhetorical concession and maybe the 0.1% over 20 years improvement to library fines on late returns. You know, if that's all we give a shit about, and looks like that's pretty much all we give a shit about. Austin writes, it's Ricardo, thank you. And Marx pushes heavily against him because he's very idealist in his analysis of capitalism. Yeah, again, I don't really have much to say about Ricardo because Ricardo is definitely a blind spot for me. I've never encountered his work. I actually don't know anything about him. Like, I've literally never even looked at this guy. I don't know where he's from. I assume he's Spanish. Like, that's how little I know about this guy, Ricardo. I straight up went like Marx Smith. Like, I went that way. So I haven't even looked at this Ricardo guy at all. Biddleford writes, Western Marxist professor. You're talking about Richard Wolff, part of the Hoover funding project of left thought. I mean, we need something on the left, right? Yeah, Richard Wolff really broke down Marx to me that my college couldn't even do in basic sociology courses. I'm forever grateful. Yeah. Yeah, true, Fiddleford, but he is a good gateway into real Marxism, yeah. Ben writes, how is dating in Toronto? Bad. Super bad. Everybody says so, and everybody complains about it. So what you see on the internet and what you see generally is kind of the normal knee-jerk reaction in dating, which is men saying women be bitches and women saying men be dumb, right? Men be like, women be like, and men be like, women be like, men, women, blah, 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 blah. And that's pretty much how it is. And nobody, of course, does what I do, which is point out that, yeah, like, everyone's angry, pissed off, frustrated, and exhausted because everyone is fucking broke. And we've created a situation in which dating one another is actually dangerous, economically dangerous, right? Because what you've done is you've created an economy and you've created a society where everybody needs to either like have a place of their own, right? So you live with somebody and roommates. That's what everybody's doing. Everybody is renting a place, roommates, right? So what, are you going to have them over? You're going to try to negotiate with your roommates? Or would you rather go over to their place? But they also are like in the same situation where it's them and their roommates, right? And that's what's happening to most people. Okay, well, then let's say you navigate that and you get engaged in some romance and you get engaged in some stuff and you start to think, maybe we should like move in together. Okay, well, that's the riskiest possible thing for a person to do. You're basically saying, let's both of us completely destabilize our economic situation in order to throw our chips in with each other. And if this blows up or is bad, it will be economic devastation for both of us. Oh, and by the way, chances are good that to leave the situation you're in and move into another situation means paying more in rent. So we've created like a total economic devastating situation where the pressure is on, the anxiety is high, everyone is struggling, basically just lurching paycheck to paycheck with no safety net whatsoever. And then these people, like man, woman, have normalized their situation, right? The life that you're living, like I really do hate to break this to you guys. This happens to me pretty much on the regular, where I walk into a person's situation, like a person's life, and it's a catastrophe. It's a catastrophe every single time. It's just a devastating catastrophe. And the people who are living within the confines of that catastrophe have completely normalized it. To them, this is normal. It's normal to live like this. It's normal to experience these experiences. It's normal to have these conversations. It's normal to have this. Because this is how they are surviving and this is how they are coping. It's a catastrophe every single time. And they're good people, they're nice people, but it's a fucking catastrophe. And so you're telling catastrophe number one and catastrophe number two to collide with one another and create a new catastrophe that has in it the stakes of homelessness and total economic devastation. Yeah. Dating is bad in this environment. It is a shitty time to be dating. The only people in the dating market that would be doing well at all right now are wealthy people. Because they can just afford to do whatever. Right? And if you have money, you're fine. Fiddleford says, I find his Richard Wolff's and Michael Hudson, yes, Michael Hudson's perspective to be very important to Westerners. How do we take what they have written and learn to distribute these skills into communities? Yeah. Freestyle Skate writes, millions died because of COVID and are still dying. Pretty sure it's come out that the anti-vax propaganda was pushed by the CIA. The Pentagon pushed anti-vax propaganda to combat China's rapid development of a COVID vaccine at the time. And the results, millions of people are now refusing vaccines of any type. Yeah, I mean, the whole vaccine conversation, it's just something I don't really care to delve too deeply into. Because to me, the only real, like the conversation we should be having is how are we breaking apart the public trust? Like, why is the public trust broken the way it is? And like, you're sort of bringing into the limelight the question of like, why does the CIA even exist as an organization? Why does the CIA exist? Like, if this is the shit they're going to do, if this is how they act, like, why does this organization exist? Why should it exist? Content writes, the whole anti-vax thing was due to the fact that we think isolation is totally permissible. I wish I could elaborate, but that would take an essay. Yeah, I understand what you mean. We literally allowed people to consume and fill their heads with conspiracies and let them just have that. Yeah. free speech, right? Free speech. Free speech is when say N-word and believe conspiracy theories, but criticize Netanyahu in Florida, go to jail for 15 years. Like it's out, like it's to out detriment. It's to our detriment, but we do just sit back and let wrong things and lies have space and fill people's minds. Yeah, there's so much to it. Again, it would take an essay to sketch it all out. The China very recently passed some legislation basically saying if you're going to be promoting medical information or financial advice or legal advice, you have to be accredited. That it's a crime, like, because I think they're trying to avoid this very thing. They're trying to avoid just some asshole gaining prominence because he's funded by some other asshole, right? Like they're trying to avoid that, which fair play. Like I think that in a way, I think we should kind of be grateful to this American moment and its ideological interaction with the internet. That the idea of free speech, I can say anything I want, right? Is being taken to its most extreme. Anyone is allowed to say anything they want, and that will all be shaken out in the marketplace of ideas. Good speech beats bad speech, right? We're seeing this theory of society being tested at the highest possible level, and we're seeing where its failures are. And there are failures, like pretty obvious, pretty clear failures, that humans can be convinced to believe nonsense by grifters or just rubes, right? Like humans are gullible, fearful creatures, and you can lie to them and convince them of lies. You can do that. Con men can take advantage of people. And if you don't actually stand up and say, yeah, that's just fraud and that should be a crime. And if you say that knowingly lying to people is protected by free speech, I think that's basically the end of your society. Right? Like you're essentially saying we shouldn't have a social contract of any sort. If you're saying it's totally fine to lie, there's no consequence whatsoever to knowingly lying to people. It's the end of your society. Anemone said, Ricardo who? I think I read him. Yeah, I can't even tell you that. Like, that's how little I know about this guy. But he is important. Like, he's an important, like, he's one of these, if you're like an economist, he is like Smith, Ricardo, Marx. That's the order. And I just never have even looked into him. Fiddleford, just be gay. Yeah. You know what, Fiddleford? Good point. Good point, man. Just be gay. Has everybody thought about just being gay? Joe writes, true. It's shocking how nearly everyone is normalizing instability and uncertainty. It's because, look, I really dislike it when economists and theorists of any sort from any side start talking about human nature, right? Because human nature is adaptability. The defining quality of human nature is adaptability. It's our ability to adapt to different material conditions and different situations. We are an extremely adaptable species. That is the reason why we are where we are. And I think Marx's observation of humanity is fundamentally correct when he said human nature is determined by material conditions. That a person who is surrounded by comfort, food, water, entertainment, and is surrounded by everyone else who is also experiencing that very same thing, is just a very different person than a person who is surrounded by poverty, famine, water scarcity, resource scarcity, and misery. Right? Those. You can take the same person and put them in those same circumstances, and you will end up with a different person. Because the circumstances, the material conditions, are what determine human behavior. And if humans, this is why it's so important for us to have serious conversations about the structures of our society and what kind of outcomes we want. It's not enough to simply say, free market, just let the market decide, because the market's a psychopath that'll always choose misery and raping your children. It'll always choose that, right? The evidence is apparent. It's right here. The president of the United States is a child rapist. Like, I don't know what you need. And if we don't have serious conversations about the material conditions that we live in, then we can't actually have serious conversations about human behavior. And this is why conservatism as a philosophy is inherently incorrect. Because conservatism begins with the premise that you are primarily responsible for your actions, and you are the one that's primarily responsible. So they ascend you to the position of God, basically. And it's not really serious. Like, it'd be like outlying, thrashing around in the water, and then throwing people into the ocean. Like, what do you think they're going to do, champ? Like, how do you think they're going to act? It's like, yeah, if you make stealing food a crime and then create food deserts everywhere, people are going to steal food. Like, pretty straightforward shit. And it's like not even like a moral consideration any longer, right? Like it's getting to be so apparent that all the moralizing exists just to maintain this shitty backwards way of thinking that is fundamentally wrong. And if we don't actually start to say, oh yeah, human nature is determined by material conditions first and foremost. And I even said, this is like my big criticism. I don't have very many criticisms of Chris Hedges, because I think Chris Hedges is like a very important voice in the conversation. But I do criticize him on this point, that he has this idea of human nature, right? And he admits it. It comes from his Calvinist upbringing, right? So he's got this Christian Calvinist upbringing that gives him this worldview of human nature. So he has a dim, bleak view of human nature. And I'm like, okay, bud, if that's the view that you have, and if you think that's just human nature and that's immutable, then what are you doing here? Right? Like, if human nature is simply immutable, right? Then why are you doing the work that you're even doing? That we fundamentally have to believe as leftists, as people who are on the left, that things can change. That's a fundamental belief of the system. It's fundamental to how we think about the world. And that not only can our material conditions change, but also humanity can change. We can actually stop being a genocidal, warmongering group of rapist pedophiles. We can do it. That it isn't an immutable fact that we just have to have the president of the United States be a pedophile. It's just not enshrined in the stars. And that the place to start is not in the human spirit, but in the material conditions that most people are living under. That's where we begin. And the reason why it needs to come to acts of revolution and acts of violence is because the pedophilic rapists who the current system manifests and rewards don't want to lose power, right? We've created a structure that rewards them for raping children. Why would they want that to end? And they won't permit it to end unless they're told it's ending. So to loop it back around to what Joe is saying here, it's shocking how nearly everyone is normalizing instability and uncertainty. That's what we always have done. We always do that, right? Normalizing the catastrophe is how it's a survival strategy. It's how we get through things. There are all kinds of bonkers shit that humans have done and bonkers societies. Not just bonkers bad, but also like bonkers good and bonkers interesting that humans have done, and we've just normalized it. Like, we built the pyramids. That's bonkers. What are we even doing? What is that? Why did we do any of that? That's crazy bonkers. Like, the Sphinx is bonkers. All the stone carvings you see throughout China and India, all of it's just bonkers. It's just crazy bonkers, crazy go nuts. That the people who were doing it were probably like, this is completely, totally normal. What a normal thing. Yeah. You welcome to reality, my son. Please join the thousands of other people who are also working on this gigantic face of our God. Here's your stone chisel. Time to begin learning. This is normal. What a normal thing for an entire people to do. It's just how we are. It's just we normalize all kinds of shit. And this is also how people normalize like abusive relationships. Right? People normalize all kinds of very negative things that happen in their lives because it's how you survive. Freestyle Skate writes, America with insane rates of gun violence and suicide by guns acts like it's normal. Some people are just crazy. Meanwhile, other capitalist countries don't even reach half the rates the US does. I mean, most other capitalist countries, outside of the ones that are just directly enslaved and directly exploited, but most other Western capitalist countries had a period of time where they were like, yeah, we should probably increase the quality of life for most citizens. Like, we should have a healthcare system. Like, it's pretty telling that most of the Western world has a universal healthcare system, right? That it's only America who's just like, no. Private insurance companies, that's the way to run this thing successfully. People will spend 5 times the money and get half the services. What? Someone got shot? What an outlaw. Crazy to think that Luigi Mangione shot that guy almost a year and a half ago. And that his trial is going to be set, it has been set to be like 2 years after the event happened. Like, that's pretty crazy to me. Like, that trial should have happened already. Joe Anthony says, the CIA exists to protect Western corporate and black market profits worldwide by any and all means. Yep. Yes, sir. Joe, right? Yeah. Anemone says, yeah, dating is a nightmare right now. It totally is. Joe, yeah, power, hegemony, all good stuffs. Half of the ladies out there are chasing the same 3 guys. Because there are like 3 good men in the world. I'm exaggerating, of course. Yeah, the pickings for good men are slim. Well, I mean, what's a good man? Right? Like, if you live in a society where everybody gets impoverished and everybody's like going paycheck to paycheck, like, what? And then, of course, you're jamming a social media system in their face that manospheres everybody. Like, what's your expectation for good man? What is this good man? What's this elusive good man that everybody's talking about? I do think that there is this element of like, I think that social media and the internet has made people's standards pretty stupid, pretty silly, frankly. Like, most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and if your expectation is that you're going to encounter like Moneybags McGee and live happily ever after and be treated like a princess, it's not a real story. Like, stop watching Disney movies. Like, you live in a psychotic society that has gone off the rails. Moneybag McGee will fuck you on Fridays of every other month. Like, that's the arrangement that he's going to make with you. But if you want like a partner and you want to find love and you want to live like in a family environment, and if you want to like build a relationship, yeah, you're not going to do that with Moneybags McGee. Moneybags McGee is going to have you as a side chick. That's what he's going to do. And chances are good Moneybags McGee is going to marry other money, right? Because it's all just like feudal marriages now. So I think there's a healthy dose of desperation, just like economic devastation and economic desperation that exists. But I also think there's just like an enormous dollop of like delusion on all sides. Just absolutely like crazy bonkers shit. The stuff I'm seeing people talk about and post and discuss, I'm just like, oh fuck, like that's some straight up delusional shit. Like, most of us are just normal, right? Like, most of us are not like the e-girls on the internet. Most of us are not like Brad Pitt. Like, most of us are not movie stars. Most of us are not like that. And that's most of us. And if your expectation is that I'm going to find myself a big titty goth girlfriend like the e-girl on my social media form, or I'm going to find a hunky boy with $100 billion who's going to whisk me away to Neverland. Like, yeah, good fucking luck. Like, good fucking luck. And I think a lot of people are kind of realizing that when you're in a catastrophe, the best thing to do is be alone, right? Like, if you're treading water, you don't want somebody to grab onto you. And to me, it's really that simple. Like, if you're treading water, and that's most of us, by the way, right? Most of us are treading water. And if you're treading water, the very last thing you want is somebody swimming over to you and grabbing hold, right? That the best case that most people want at this moment is they want to be around other people, just around them, and watch them also tread water. And so everybody's watching each other tread water. But nobody wants to grab hold. Nobody wants to grab hold. And because we've made it extremely risky for people to grab hold, it's not happening. It's just not happening. Anemone says, I think as a whole, yeah, most people are just awful people, but it's hard to find other available communists. Yeah. I mean, there are people in the Trotsky organizations. Just gotta hold your nose and go ahead. Anemone. Otherwise, I would be a lesbian. Yeah. I mean, I love women, but what if I want to be in a relationship with a man? Otherwise, I would be a lesbian. Oh yeah, tell me about it. I would be gay in a heartbeat. You have any idea how many times I've just been like standing in a coffee shop? I wear like nice sweaters, right? I'll have a nice sweater on, and this like very tiny, very effeminate man will come up to me and start complimenting my sweater. Do you have any idea how often that happens to me? Like, all the fucking time. Especially if I groom up my beard, like if I get the beard so it's not so like crazy, but it's actually like smooth and like really like taken care of. Yeah. My life would be a million times better if I was gay. For sure it would be. Like, but no. I'm an alpha male. super alpha. I'm the alphaist of the alpha males, even though that experiment was completely debunked by the very man who proposed it. But that's fine. Alpha. I do like what somebody said about this alpha stuff, which was like, I take a look at alpha males in the same way that I take a look at alpha software, which is it should only be seen in-house and not distributed to the public. Yeah, it's alpha, as in not ready. Joe writes, yes, I agree with Hedges 90% of the time, except for the same point you're making. This has always will be view, says who. Yeah. I mean, it's like, because I think Hedges is so informed by his faith and so informed by his moral view of things, that's kind of the anchor point for him. And so he sees it as like a moral duty to expose power, right? Which I think is good. Like, I don't think this is a bad thing to do. It's just we're having a philosophical disagreement. Which, I mean, who am I to have a philosophical disagreement with somebody like Chris Hedges? Really? Like, if I were to actually sit down and talk to Chris Hedges, I would absolutely simply have a theological conversation. The only thing I would talk to him about. Like, if I were to like bring him on the show, for example, I wouldn't be like, let's discuss world politics, because it's like, yeah, just watch your show. Like, yep, we know what your view on world politics is. Let's talk about something that you don't talk about that often. Like, let's talk theology, baby. That's the only thing I would talk to him about. JT writes, that actually does sum it up quite well. That's my task. That's what I'm here to do, is to sum up things quite well. Because Lord knows our media doesn't. Like, to me, this is the big failing of the media system, is that they're basically just showing you snapshots. They're like, this happened today, this happened today, this happened today, this happened today. But nobody ever like sits down and is like, okay, this is what happened throughout the entire week, right? And that fits into what happened the entire month, which is sort of this. And then that fits into what happened the year. And then that fits in what happened the last 5 years, last 10 years, last century, right? There's literally nobody doing that. And so, like, if I were to rename this show, I would call it The Context. Because to me, that's basically what's missing for most people, is the context. That an event happens, and like in a very kind of basic conservative-minded way, right? Like, one man pulls out a gun and shoots another man. Like, well, man who shoots man is bad, right? And that's basic conservative thinking. Man shoots man, bad. Get man who shoots man. But if you zoom it out and you create context, right? So maybe man who shot other man was being attacked by that man. That man had a knife and was coming at him, and so he shot him in self-defense. It's like, oh, suddenly there's context, right? But now maybe you can add the other layer of context. Was, yeah, the man was coming at him with a knife because the man with the gun broke into his house. So now there's another layer of context upon context. So the context matters, right? The context matters. The history matters. The situation matters. And we as a people don't seem to give a shit about that at all. We don't care about the context of anything at all. We don't even attempt to take a look at what happened on the other side, right? Like right now I'm watching Mandleton Pendleton, who's become like a pretty significant voice on the socialist left in California. She keeps bringing up North Korea, and she keeps pointing out what's going on in North Korea and talking about North Korea. And it's pretty fun to watch, actually, because to me, the whole conversation about North Korea is like, yeah, you see what we did to Gaza, right? So we did that to North Korea. And suddenly it's like, oh shit, like, yeah, we killed 20% of their population, burnt down all their buildings, engage them in a major war. Like it was a genocide. It was a catastrophe. We did that. Mandelpin, Pembleton, Mandelbin, Medelbin, Mandelton, Manolin, Mad Eline, Madeline, Pednilton, pedaling bike, Madeline, Maddie line. XD's just over there being like, fuck you, Jafar. God will stab you with a knife. Also, that bit about Moneybags McGee should be lyrics to a song, Joplin style. Moneybags McGee, there's something wrong, you see. I don't know how a man can be like a man like Moneybags McGee. Ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, bow, 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 there goes Moneybags McGee. There's something wrong with him, you see. Ain't no man can be free as long as they're paying to Moneybags McGee. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bow, bow, Moneybags McGee. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Yeah. Yeah. Content says, I'm the kind of person that just wants to date without being a liability to anyone else's life. We hang out, we come and go, we have fun, or we stop. But, like, no hardcore commitment. To be fair, we almost everyone would like for a partner that can at least hold their own. Yeah, no, that makes sense. But like we've created a situation in which there's doubt for that, right? Like if you're living in a situation where being a shoe salesman means that you have a house, right? Then like that whole dynamic, that whole idea, the whole suspicion is just gone. You're just like, oh, he has a job, right? Like, oh, he has a job. Set, right? Job equal house, car, right? Support, kids, family, all that. Right? Now it's like, oh, you have a job? Doing what? Where? Working for who? Under what circumstances? How long have you had the job? What's your position? What's your job? Like now people have to actually suss it. Like they might as well start with what's your pay? Like what's your pay? How much do you make? Like that's kind of where the starting line is now. And so you end up in conversations with people where they're trying to suss you out because it's no longer the case that job equals stability. Right? And so that sucks. That makes the whole thing suck. Good to see you, Ong. Fiddleford says, your great-great-grandparents probably hooked up with swollen hay face from the hay they handled and swells to the face. Trying for 10s, 8s, so on was only something the elites would be able to do. Well, and also, like, if you're living in a town or a city, like if you're living in a city, like the people who you have available as prospective mates are the people who are around you. Right? You're not going to like travel across the city to find a mate. Like you're going to be in your neighborhood. And these are the people who are around you. With this social media system we have, it's like people have this idea that I'll find love in Calgary. Like I can find the perfect soulmate. It's like, shut up. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, you're going to find the people who you are going to end up with around you. Right? That's who you're going to find. Like, go to an event. Find a board game night. Go to that board game night. Get to know people. It's just gotten so, like, Absurd. There's an absurdity to it at the moment. Anemone says, but what if you are a big titty goth girl? Still not easy for us. I'd love to have a big titty goth girl. We could go for walks on the beach. We could hold hands and eat ice cream. We could sit quietly and feel our bones decay together. That would be nice. It would be nice to live with someone who also understood that our lives are essentially a flickered into entropy. And that we could just spend the brief, fleeting moments we have together enjoying the decay. There are people I've known in the past who I have dumped out of my life because I straight up said to myself, I do not want to watch you decay. And then there are people in my life who I really pay a lot of attention to because I'm like, you are a beautiful decay. You decay beautifully. I think there's something really nice about that. We have this really negative view of watching things rot. And I'm quite the opposite. I think I'm going to really enjoy watching this place rot. I think there isn't an ounce of sadness left in me at all. All the idea that we had all this potential and we could have done all of this stuff, that's all gone. Now it's just the rot. And I wish I had someone in my life who would like to watch the rot with me. I think that's why I do this channel, really. We all get to come together and take a certain kind of joy in the rot, in the decay. And we get to actually say to one another, yeah, this is decay. This is rot. But the beauty about rot is that every so often it means that something dies. Something we don't like. JT says, I like to summarize too, poetic underlined statements, sort of. I guess it's why I enjoy your delivery. Well, that's kind of you, JT. Joe writes, yes, and Hedges always says, I don't fight fascists because I could win. I fight them because they are fascists. Be nice to win. I think that Hedges sort of understands the position of hopelessness. There is a sense of hopelessness, and one of the things he's constantly confronting is that hopelessness and the sense of hopelessness. And I think he's trying to set himself up for an understanding that for him, it's not about winning, right? It is about maintaining a type of moral credibility, right? Hedges believes in moral credibility. And if anybody has moral credibility, it is someone like him, right? And so because he believes in this idea of moral credibility, that's what's important to uphold. And that it's not about winning against the fascists, it's about fighting the fascists. And that the winning is the hope. We're holding on to the hope of victory. That even though it might seem bleak, and the truth is that fascists can't win. Fascists have no accurate governing strategy. You can't govern through fascism. You just can't. You can't maintain Like your theory is bad. Like your society won't sustain itself. You might have your flickering little moment. You might have a generation. Maybe you'll have 2 generations that are just like fascist. But boy, howdy, is that going to burn itself out? Like, and there's a reason why fascists always lose, right? Because they're just self-destructive, stupid. They make bad decisions all the time. And because the stakes that they're playing at are so high, when they lose bad. And so I'm of the opinion that it's like, yeah, the death of fascism is an inevitability because it just can't be sustained. Like systemically and structurally, it just cannot be sustained. JT writes, Maddie does it with such confidence too, like properly treating people like that they are obviously behind, which they are. Yeah, one of the funny videos that she did, because she pops up on my TikTok feed all the time. Somehow I ended up being her friend on TikTok. I have no idea how that happened. Like she friended me, I guess. I don't really post on TikTok that often anymore because I find it to be kind of draining and oddly soul sucking. I don't find it to be good for me. But she'll pop up on my TikTok feed, and sometimes she'll do videos, and she'll just talk like this. And she'll be like, today I'm going to talk about the Ukraine war. And there are some things that happened on the lead up to the Ukraine war that our media doesn't really talk about, but I think are important for us to know about. So I think that these issues should be raised. And I really hope that you'll listen to what needs to be said. And then she'll just talk this way, and she'll like talk people through the coup, the rise of Nazism in Ukraine. And just talking like this the whole time. I'm like, I just don't have it, man. I just can't. Like the best I can do is in 2014, there was a coup in Ukraine. We know this because Victoria Nuland said so. Here's the clip of her saying so. You can choose to believe that or not. Many of you will choose to not. That's not her organizing a coup. She's just restructuring the leadership chain of Ukraine, which is a foreign nation, not a coup. Okay, bud. It's not a coup. She just said the definition of a coup out loud. It's not a coup, though. Like, we really are at a point now where it's not about presenting information to people anymore, right? Like the information is there. And it's there in like the biggest, boldest, reddest letters that you can find, right? It's as naked, as open, as like just like there it is. That's no longer what we're confronting. What we're confronting is whether or not people will believe it. That's what it is. That it's like, no wonder these guys do like the biggest extravagant crimes they can possibly do, because they know no one will believe it. Right? That they could literally, like Donald Trump said in the 80s, he was like, I could shoot somebody in Times Square and they'd still vote for me. Yeah, because Donald Trump fundamentally understands that you can do these things and then no one will believe that you did them. Right? So that's really what we're confronting, is that sometimes the scope of these crimes and the scope of what they're doing goes beyond what a person's imagination is capable of putting together. That there's this, they can't possibly have done that. Disbelief that goes along. And it's like, yes. Not only is it possible that they have done it, they've done it dozens of times before. And it's interesting because this phenomenon, I think, intersects with other types of phenomena. Racism is a big one. And it's especially true, I think, in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian example, because you can present a person with, like, here's the CIA cooing an African nation. Here's the CIA cooing a South American nation, a Latin American nation. Right? Here's the CIA cooing a Asian nation. And people will be like, yep. Oh, wow, yeah. Whoa, that's crazy. Whoa, yeah. Whoa, yeah. Whoa. And they'll just go right along with it. The moment you're like, and here's the CIA cooing Ukraine. You're just on Putin's side. You want the Russians to win, and blah, blah. That's interesting. That's a really interesting phenomenon. Really, really interesting that when it comes to, like, nations of brown people or Muslims or black people or Asian people, the white people are like, yes, I see that the white power structure cooed those inferior races nations. But when it comes time to talk about the CIA cooing another white nation, suddenly there's a problem. Suddenly it's unbelievable. The white power structure would never coup the nation of another white nation? What? Outrageous. Outrageous. JT writes, if you question whether you can afford to take someone on a date, that's a pretty big damper. Yep. The fail society has failed. Yeah, no one has money right now. Yeah. That or your parents are rich. The cold way of looking at profiles is so soul-sucking. Yeah, I hate that shit, dude. And it's like the worst way. It's the absolute worst way to do this. Like, I really am pretty shocked that there isn't just, like, a singles mixer that happens. Right? Like, here in the beaches, like, I'm blown away that there isn't just like, yeah, there's come here, singles night. What are we doing here? There needs to be a communist dating app. I don't think the apps are the solution. I think it's just straight up, like, get people into a room and, like, get away from the club night culture. Like, do you have any idea what I would do for just, like, a bar to be like, yeah, hey, we're having a singles night. Come on down. Like, here's put on this bracelet if you're looking for a partner. Put on this bracelet if you're not. Like, different color coded bracelets for expectation. Like, approach me, don't approach me. Like, set some expectations. But, like, I also do feel one of the things I do think is happening, and I do see this phenomenon occurring, is there's this really nasty feedback loop happening that, because things are so desperate right now and people's fight or flight is being triggered so badly, and there's, like, a real survival thing going on pretty primarily in most people's lives. There's the narrative that men are violent, which is true, that spreads throughout womankind, right? So women are like, men are bad, violent, scary, men, violent, scary, spreading that sort of fear into it, which there's truth to it. But what doesn't really get discussed is the other side of it, which is that women are cruel, right? Like, there's a cruelty that exists. And I've noticed this personally, and I see other people notice it. And that really, like, when you look at the manosphere and their critiques of women, there's a real cruelty, which in my view is part of the survival situation, right? That women, like, naturally want men to kind of work for it, which makes sense. Right? They don't want to just put out for nothing, which makes sense. Not holding that against them, but because the material conditions have gotten so desperate and there's such an underlying sense of fear that needing to test has turned cruel, and there's a real viciousness that exists in the dating market now that I didn't experience previously. And there's a real viciousness, a real sense of cruelty. And men are essentially treated as completely expendable, completely disposable. And I think lots of men are kind of fed up with it. I know I'm fed up with it. Like I'm out. Like I'm out. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in looking. I'm not interested in dating. Like at this point, I'd just have like, a nice chat with a woman. I have no expectation of anything because I don't think there's anything to expect there. Like it's like believing you're gonna find relief in a bonfire. Like you're gonna stand in the middle of a fire and feel the cool breeze. Like that's what it's like to be dating right now. Yeah, I'm gonna be the one who steps into that burning building and come out unscathed. Like, nope, that's not a real thing. So I'm pretty much out. I'm just gonna stay away from the burning building. Oh, somebody has been chatting over on Twitch and I've been not seeing it. Billy Bugbath. I love that name, dude. We also have somebody over here. Oh, geez. Yeah, I haven't seen you guys. Sorry. First time chatter, Koji asks, when is the end of the war in Ukraine? Good question. I don't think that war actually ever ends. I think it is a forever war. The Russians have essentially taken the territory that they want. They're not interested in taking the rest of Ukraine, and they're certainly not interested in pushing into Europe. I do think that NATO is going to turn that war into a forever war, and it'll just continue perpetually and forever. Should the war in Ukraine end, the most likely way it ends is when Putin finally retires and his predecessor takes power. If his predecessor is more ruthless than Putin, because I think Putin has been an interesting leader, a man of note and worthy of analysis. There's a Jude Law movie that is coming out where Jude Law plays Putin, and I'm curious to watch it, although I'm absolutely positive it will be Western propaganda. But yeah, I think that a more ruthless leader, a more hawkish leader is what they'll call him, will do what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is a full-scale invasion of Kiev. And Putin's not interested in doing that. Yeah, Billy Bugbath, yeah, the arms industry is for profit, not production, correct? Capitalism creates need. They cannot get their head around that. Parasitic profiteering of free market capitalism has deindustrialized the West. I'm liking you, Billy Bugbath. Gotta tell you, end of the year, financialist reports China's economy turning over 40 trillion compared to the US 30. Wealth gap growing. America's biggest product appears to be debt. Europe illegally rounding up 60K Ukrainian refugees, sending them back for Canada. There's realistic to say 3 million Ukrainian troops have been killed. Europe considers the Ukrainian Slavs Untermensch in reality. I think of little brown children malnourished as a bowl is about liberal sympathy. Yeah. I like socialist MMA Nick Cruz. You and him would make a really good North America Marx stream. That's nice. And then Ellie, you're charming in. these anti-communists are just pro-slaveholders, yeah, pro-murderers, pro-pedophiles, yeah. Women are just as violent. They don't have the ability to exert force as much as men. Yeah, I think that's true. Like, I think that, like, when men do violence, it's obvious because men are just bigger and dumber. Whereas when women do violence, it's more sinister, it's more underhanded. Like, things usually are more complicated under the statistics, right? Yeah, the idea that men are violent, and that just men are responsible for the vast majority of severe violence, not violence in general. Yeah. Delaney says his predecessor, Putin's predecessor, has to be anti-West. Uh, yeah, he does. He has to be anti-West. Like, that's what makes Putin's time as leader so interesting. Putin's time as leader has been so interesting because of the pivot he was forced to make. And the pivot he was forced to make, he navigated it brilliantly. And I think that's the defining attribute of his career as the leader of Russia. That he became the leader of Russia believing that he was going to usher in a westernized Russia, that he was going to link arms with Europe, join the EU, perhaps join NATO, that Europe and Russia were going to link hands with one another and move forward into the future. And throughout his career, you watch a man steadily realize that's not going to happen, and make steps and turn away from Europe actively until finally there's this break moment where all of the systems that he put in place had to be tested. And Putin gets a lot of criticism in Russia and from a certain type of leftist that he let the Donbass war go on for too long. But I think that what he was doing through that period of time was not only, he was buying time to try to ensure that the systems that he was putting in place when sanctions hit, that Russia would be resilient. Like, he knew the Americans were going to put sanctions on him. He knew that was going to happen. And so he couldn't simply just accept that. So he needed to find alternative markets. And he did. And he did successfully. So, like, you can say what you like about Putin. And if you're living like in Ukraine or in Europe, you do. Like, you do. But I think that he's been very agile and has been very deft as a leader. And I think he will go down in history as one of the pivotal. Like, I really do think that the way history will think of Russian history, like the way the world will look at Russian history, is like Lenin, of course, like the Tsars, Lenin, Stalin, Putin. I really think it'll be that way. That Khrushchev, Gorbachev, like those guys will basically be forgotten sort of footnotes. And like Gorbachev will be of note because he's the one who ultimately dismantled the Soviet Union. But I think Putin sort of wears that enough. Like Stalin died, the Soviet Union fell, Putin, right? Like, that narrative seems pretty clean for the average person. You don't need to get into sort of the nitty gritty details of it. And Putin's a very, very interesting leader, and he's been very, very interesting. Like, if Putin was my leader, like if Putin was the leader of Canada, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's great. Like, he actually is like hand on the rudder. Like, he knows what he's up to. Sometimes he has to like show up places and be bullish, right? And sometimes he has to show up places and not be bullish, and he knows what to do. He's an astute politician. Yeah, freestyle skate. No more third spaces. Everything hidden behind a paywall. Check out your local library. Libraries are starting to put together that they are the third space. Like they're the community center. They're really putting together. Like take a look at your library's event schedule. I just today I went to a mahjong thing for the first time. I was like, oh, they're doing like every Wednesday there's mahjong. And when I walked in, I saw exactly what I was expecting to see, which was mainly old women playing mahjong, but then a couple of people my age, a couple of women my age showed up and were like, "Oh, I don't know mahjong. Let's all play." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm sort of new to this." So we all sat down and had a fine time playing mahjong. Yeah, mahjong. Let's go. Yeah, I had a good time too. And so, yeah, tactical, easy but complex enough. Great mind game. Yeah. No, and it was there was something hopeful about like stepping into that space and seeing people my age also sort of stepping into that space. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of people, like a lot of middle-aged people who are just going to be like, "Oh, well, where can we go to like where's a free event happening? Where's any event happening? The library. Oh, there's any event happening at all." And like you want a big indication that capitalism is failing. It can't provide the basic service of a space for singles to just get together and have a night together. Like it's just not doing it. Just not facilitating it. Fiddleford says, I tried online dating. The creating of the advertisement of myself was always something I found hard and gross. Same with resumes, yeah. Anemone says, there are illegal raves still going on in Toronto all the time. Yeah, rad. Rad as shit. I'd love to be part of that. Thanks, D. Yeah. Culture overall is very backbiting, dog eat dog. Yeah, of course. No, there's like literal psychos with huge amounts of wealth in it. So yeah, of course it is. JT says, yeah, I've peripherally noticed that from others. People where I want both parties to be happy, but can't blame each other for their crappy foundations, it seems. I've basically written it off as, well, at least I had that experience checked off in my earlier life. Yeah. I'd say maybe if NATO itself fails and they go to actually talk to Russia, maybe then. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't think NATO does fail. I think NATO, if anything, they double down. Right? That NATO, again, like fear, right? Fear accounts for a lot. And not only does NATO have the fear of Russia now they also have the fear of the United States. So to me, it's actually pretty likely that NATO, as a military alliance, doubles down on itself and gets even more militant. That seems very likely. Too many ties to Cuba, Iran that the West could never tolerate. Makes me think of Gaddafi, perhaps. The idea of thinking the West actually wants to move forward and deal in good faith. Yeah, dude, the execution, the public execution of Gaddafi was a huge moment for Putin. Like it was a huge moment for a lot of people, and I think people don't like I Libya still gets referenced in like liberal media. Like when people want to criticize the empire, they do bring up Libya, and they should. Libya was just it's the very definition of a war crime. Like literally, the leader was not threatening anybody with any kind of force at all. The quality of life amongst his citizens was only improving. They literally invaded the place and murdered him in public for money. Like there's just no, yeah. Yeah, they sodomized him to death, and now you can trade slaves in Tripoli. In Tripoli, yeah, Tripoli. Like, yeah, like that's got to make somebody pause, right? You got to pause and be like, I don't know about these Americans. Yeah, JT, I wasn't even a sock dam when I learned, and it propelled me very far. Yeah, like the atrocity in Libya, like the absolute. Well, I feel like we've reached the end of this one, guys. 9. That's a good stream. Turkey, Saudi are all playing the center line. Billy, I do want to respond to this. Billy Bugbath says Turkey and Saudi are all playing the center line. Yeah, I think I would like to know more. Like, Saudi Arabia to me has always been just like evil Machiavellian geniuses. And they seem to be doubling down with America, though, which I'm like, that seems to be an error. So, anyway, people are already saying goodnight. I should say goodnight. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are doing everything they can to make sure you never realize it. Just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.